Hello and welcome again to this edition of Florida Internet Television's FLITV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you from the Technology Pavilion in our headquarters, just a few blocks from Florida's capital. Today's guest is Representative Matt Caldwell, candidate for State Agriculture Commissioner. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so you're here. We're going to get into both the campaign, but before we go there, tell us a little bit about your background and how did you even get to the Capitol and the legislative process? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so my family's been in Florida for 200 years, and it sounds great. I didn't do anything to earn it. I just got to not screw it up. And, you know, I got involved volunteering back during college in '04, and one thing led to another. I was running for the House and been focused on the issues I care about and my constituents care about for the last 7 years.
All right, well, let's talk about that, because you're an A-grade legislator by so many of the key organizations up here. What organizations are giving Representative Caldwell A's these days?
Yeah, Christian Coalition, Chamber of Commerce, NRA. I've been a consistent conservative throughout my time in the House.
Okay, all right, so let's jump in. We're going to ask you the big question. Why run for statewide office and why be the Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Florida?
Really an awesome post. More than anybody else in the cabinet, the Commissioner is going to focus on rural Florida, urban Florida, natural Florida, how you balance between those three areas. We got 20 million people a day, going to go to 30 million people. I've spent most of my time in the legislature focused on natural resource issues, focused on Everglades, water, ag policy, and really a great opportunity to take a leadership role in terms of setting that policy.
Right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about protecting the environment and the resources and the agriculture community. I mean, that is the key. I mean, what do you think your top priorities are going to be once you get in office? I mean, where do you see your biggest footholds, or you're going to kind of like take your ground? Where are you going to go?
Absolutely. I mean, really three things, and the first one's always jobs, and that's because people care about, you know, are they secure, and are their kids going to be able to be successful? And this Department of Agriculture doesn't just oversee ag issues, but it's really all the blue-collar outside jobs, surveyors, oil changes, amusement parks. You really got to understand business. You got to understand how government can really monkey and screw that up and try to prevent that from happening and work with people, try to get things in the right direction. It's the home of the Concealed Weapons Permit Program. 2 million plus people in Florida signed up for that. Really a sacred trust with this office and something I'm committed to. And then the big one is water policy. Really going to define our success or our failure in the future. Again, 20 million people a day, 30 million within our horizon, and all of us can see. We've put in a lot of good policy, but it's really about leadership and infrastructure, particularly in our urban areas where the growth is going to continue to come. Right,
and frankly, that water policy is so key to feed the growth of the state. Without a solid water plan, you're not going to be able to have the water there. Okay, so in this role, you're not only balancing the agriculture needs of the state of Florida, but you're also balancing consumer services, and you're a watchdog in that respect. So how do you plan to kind of still encourage a great business and economic environment while you're protecting consumers, but also promoting an industry, if you will?
Absolutely, and consumer services is a huge part of the office. You know, people are most familiar probably with the gas pumps and weights and measures, so when you get a gallon, when it says a gallon, you get a gallon.
Stickers here and there,
yeah,
right?
You've seen the stickers, but also protecting people from scams, and folks are familiar with the skimmers and those issues, but now identity theft continues to grow. It's the home of consumer complaints, so if you feel like you're getting scammed or somebody you know is getting scammed, that's who you need to call. If somebody calls you, your name's not on the do not call list, they're committing a crime. Call the department, complain, get the caller ID, and then give them the number so they can go after it and investigate it. We're going to continue to focus on that and make sure that that's a priority.
Yeah, I mean, as a cabinet office, it's way more than agriculture alone. So I mean, that's good that people know about that. So let's talk about a little bit of some agriculture issues, because it is the agriculture commissioner job. Citrus greening has devastated our crop, and the recent hurricanes have done that much more damage. That's certainly top of mind of most people when they think about the agriculture industry. You know, what are your top to-do lists as it relates to those issues?
Now, the hurricane was a gut punch to the citrus industry. You know, we've been struggling with this disease, this aphid, this fly that spreads this bacterial infection, really like arteriosclerosis in the tree. It strangles to death from the inside, can't get any nutrients. And research and development with IFAS, University of Florida, really looked like we turned the corner. We were going to have an increase in the number of boxes, the way you measure the citrus counts this year, and then hurricane blows it all on the ground. So really a tough thing. Look, the big players are invested in it. Coca-Cola, Tropicana, they see a future. They've continued to contract with farmers to continue to replant, but it's becoming a struggle for the small guy, the farmer that's got 250, 300 acres. That's tough to absorb the kind of costs that go onto that now. So really the forefront of IFAS's job is helping those farmers figure out what else they could do, and that's why you've seen a huge boom in blueberries. We're now the leader in the nation in blueberries. We've got several other different varieties of crops. Hops, for example, down in South Florida.
Really?
Yeah, you would never.
Hops makes beer.
It does make beer.
Okay, all right.
It does make beer.
Well, I'm
a little bit
all
of everything.
about that crop growing, but I want to make sure our citrus farmers have another avenue to go to. Okay, so that's fascinating. But agriculture is a global industry, and Florida sits at this crossroads, if you will, for the Western Hemisphere. How much international relations does this job involve? Where will you go with those issues?
No, it's absolutely huge. We're the gateway to Latin, Central and South America. It all mostly comes through our ports. And for example, if you buy cut flowers, you buy a bouquet to take home, 90% of the flowers sold in the entire U.S. comes through Miami International Airport. Really a huge part of our agricultural sector. And so we need to make sure that we're focused on that. At the same time, some of the points, for example, NAFTA, is a contentious issue and has to do with opening up trade with nations that have the same grow period as we do. And so, for example, really the conflict comes with Mexico. Their tomatoes ripen the same time ours does. And if we have a labor force that's more expensive, a land price that's more expensive, it's really impossible for our farmers to compete with that. So we've got to make sure that our trade agreements reflect the reality that we're dealing with here at home.
Right. Well, and citrus faced the same thing with Brazil and a lot of then we see a lot of kind of cross-pollination and ownership within that industry, so that seems to be there. All right, so you're the ambassador not only on issues as they affect Florida, but how much does this office work with our friends, and I'm going to use air quotes, in Washington, D.C. to help secure and protect Florida?
Yeah, and that's a real vision I have for this office. Honestly, as I toured the state, we're doing work days, we're getting to interact with folks that are regulated by the department. They're really happy with the department, happy with the state of Florida, and obviously 1,000 new people moving here a day, so more than just farmers are happy with Florida. But their challenges are federal. It's lingering questions on labor, on environmental policy, on trade policy. So my vision is really to spend a lot of time focused on D.C. and advocating for our state. We're the third largest state by population, most diverse agricultural state in the nation. What's important to us should be important in federal policy.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about not only the policy, but really the modernization of the industry. So when you look at our Florida ports, they can move goods faster. Our airports are moving all the cut flowers, as you said, and this all kind of flows through the office. But the current commissioner, Putnam, has done a lot to just modernize the office. I mean, in software systems that can track crops and all that sort of stuff. Where do you plan to take the office next from a technology standpoint? After all, you are on Florida Internet and Television, so we need to know how the Internet's going to play a role. So
absolutely, technology is the future of agriculture. You look across the world, particularly in Europe, where they've got much less land available and resource scarcity, really on the cutting edge of technology. And we're seeing that come here. As our land prices become more expensive, you got to get better return in order to stay on the land and stay doing what you love to do, which is the farming. Whether that's drones tracking every single square inch and to the level of figuring out not just which field should be irrigated, but which nozzle should be turned on and off as the center pivot goes around the field and monitors the moisture level, monitors the fertilization level. Really getting down to the nitty-gritty of that is where the research is, and it's part of the department's role to really see that research deployed in the field.
Yeah, that's exciting, and I know the office is always a facilitator of modernizing Florida's edge in this globally competitive industry, so that's fascinating. Okay, so now we're going to shift to kind of the fun side of when we get to know candidates and really get to know the important stuff, like what does Representative Caldwell stream when you're not driving all over the state, running for state office, or when you're in the Capitol and you're fighting for your district and free enterprise. Like when you go home and you kick your feet up, your boots, hopefully, right?
Sure.
You kick your boots up. What do you click on to watch and relax?
Well, listen, pretty boring stuff, I guess, to some people, but I like to watch Science Channel a lot, and then on the streaming side,
I
love
think
westerns.
You're pandering with that answer. Science Channel, come on.
Yeah, well, that's westerns, Longmire, and the Grand Tour. Love to watch car shows.
Yep.
So
okay. The Grand Tour.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazon.
All right. Well, let's explore this a little more. So when you're thinking technology, so streaming's one thing, we love it, but the other thing that we have are all the gizmos that you can have running in your house and plug in. So we call them IoT, Internet of Things. Do you have any of those kind of gadgets in your house, that your thermostat or the Alexas or anything like that?
Not quite up to that level. My refrigerator is not ordering my groceries yet.
Not yet.
Listen, that's where the world's going, that
Sure.
level of connectivity. And certainly we couldn't do what we do in terms of the number of issues and topics we tackle on the legislative side without all the technology that's involved in that. And that's where the world's headed.
Well, we'll continue to do our part to build out our networks. Thank you for everything you do on behalf of businesses and the NRA and everybody in the state of Florida, and for frankly throwing your hat in the ring, not just once, but multiple times, and now for state office. Good luck in your race.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Brad.
Thanks, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Please hit us up on our Facebook or our Twitter feed to see more of episodes like this. For now, have a great day.